Protein classification based on structure. Based on structural complexity, proteins are classified into three groups. They are simple, conjugate and derived proteins. Simple proteins or holoproteins are those which yield amino acids or their derivatives on hydrolysis. They have amino acid as their structural component. They are of globular type except scleroproteins, which are fibrous in nature. They are further classified into 7 types. Albumin. Albumins are simple proteins soluble in water and dilute solutions of acids, bases and salts and are coagulated by heat. They are deficient of glycine and are widely distributed in nature, but more abundant in seeds. Example: plasma albumin and serum albumin. Globulin. Globulins are insoluble in water, but soluble in dilute solutions of neutral salts. They are coagulated by heat. They contain glycine. Globulins are precipitated by saturated sodium chloride solution. Globulins are of 2 types based on their solubility behavior. They are pseudoglobulins and euglobulins. Pseudoglobulin is soluble at very low ionic strength, whereas euglobulin is sparingly soluble. Glutelin. Glutelin are insoluble in water and dilute solutions of neutral salts, but they are soluble in acids and bases. They are coagulated by heat and are rich in arginine, proline and glutamic acid. They are isolated only from plant seeds. Example: glutenin in wheat, corn or ricinin from rice, etc. Prolamin. Prolamins are isolated only from plant seeds. They are soluble in 70 to 80% ethyl alcohol, but insoluble in water, absolute alcohol and other neutral solvents. They are not coagulated by heat. They contain large amount of protein and are deficient of lysine. Example: cein from maize or dain from barley. Histones. Histones are simple proteins soluble in water and dilute acids, but insoluble in ammonia. They are not coagulated by heat. They are rich in basic amino acids like histidine and arginine, but deficient in tryptophan and contain little cysteine or methionine. Example: nucleohistone of nuclei of hemoglobin. Albuminoids. Albuminoids are insoluble in water, dilute solutions of neutral salts, acid, bases and 60 to 80% ethyl alcohol. They are soluble in long boiling concentrated acid solutions. Example: keratin in hair, feathers, nails, horn, collagen in tendons, skin and bone. Protomans. Protomans are soluble in water and ammonium hydroxide. They are not coagulated by heat. They are more basic than histones. They contain large amount of arginine. Example: salmine from salmon sperm. Conjugated proteins or heteroproteins. Conjugated proteins contain non-protein substances, and these non-protein substances are termed prosthetic group. They may be either a metal or a compound. The protein part is called apoprotein. Thus, conjugated proteins yield non-protein substance in addition to amino acids on hydrolysis. Conjugated proteins are also of globular type, except for the chicken feathers, which are of fibrous in nature. They are further classified into 5 types based on the nature of the prosthetic group present. Metalloproteins. These are proteins linked with various metals. They may be stable or more or less liable. They are classified into 3 groups based on their reactivity with metal ions. These are metals strongly bound by proteins, weakly bound by proteins and that do not couple with protein. Glycoprotein or mucoproteins. They contain carbohydrate as prosthetic group. On hydrolysis, they yield amino sugars, example mucin in saliva and egg albumin. Phosphoproteins, they contain phosphoric acid as the prosthetic group. The phosphoric acid is attached to the hydroxyl group of protein by an ester linkage, example casein in milk. Lipoproteins, they contain phospholipids or cholesterol as the prosthetic group, example lipoproteins of blood serum. Nucleoproteins, nucleoproteins contain nucleic acid as the prosthetic group. These are present in nuclear substances and cytoplasm. They are considered as the sites for the synthesis of proteins and enzymes. Example nuclein, nucleohistone. Chromoproteins, chromoproteins are colored proteins. These are simple proteins linked to a metallic prosthetic group which gives the color to the protein. For example, hemoglobin, cytochrome. Derived proteins are the intermediate products formed from natural proteins when they are hydrolyzed by heat, acids, alkalis or enzymes. They are of two types, primary derived proteins and secondary derived proteins. Primary derived proteins, these are derivatives of proteins in which the size of the protein molecule is not materially altered. They are of three types. Proteins are denatured proteins. They are the first products produced by the action of acids, enzymes or water on proteins. They are insoluble in water. Example, fibrin derived from fibrinogen. Metaproteins, metaproteins are derived by the further action of acid or alkali on proteins. These are insoluble in water but soluble in dilute acid or alkali. Coagulated proteins, these are insoluble protein products produced by the action of heat or alcohol on protein. Coagulated egg white is an example of this type. Secondary derived proteins, they are the products of proteins in which definite hydrolysis has taken place. The molecules are smaller than those of the original proteins. They are of three types. Proteoses, they are soluble in water and are coagulated by heat. They are precipitated by saturating their solutions with ammonium sulphate. Example, albumose from albumin. Peptones, peptones are soluble in water and are not coagulated by heat. They are produced by the action of dilute acids or enzymes when hydrolysis proceeds beyond proteosis. They are not precipitated by saturating their solutions with ammonium sulphate. Polypeptides, these are the derivatives of proteins containing many amino acid units.